ladies and gentlemen, Coach Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, go!
Hey, gentlemen.
Coach, you see John Cena, Brock Lesnar leading off that show. You all right with that, or what are your thoughts?
I'm heading to Indy as soon as I get done here.
Yeah!
Hell yeah. Good place.
Hell of a night.
We would love to have you here, obviously. We're very pumped that you're coming. I'll let the WWE know. You might be sitting right. You might be in the ring.
Might need you.
Yeah, go in. Get in there.
Might have you in the ring. You want to slide in there, maybe hit the ropes a little bit. Coach, thank you for joining us. Week 3 obviously kicks off tonight. AFC East battle. 12.5-point spread now at ESPN Bet and multiple other books. I don't even think you can get 11.5. 12.5 feels like a lot of points for a division game on a Thursday night. How do coaches view these short weeks? And if you're these coaches, what is your messaging to your team?
Well, I mean, I've always liked the short week because, I think particularly when it doesn't go great on the prior Sunday. But, yeah, this is a tough one here because, division game, like you've already stated, Thursday night, Miami going up to Buffalo. But, you look at the numbers and you watch the first 2 games. I mean, Buffalo is really rolling right now. I mean, just the way the ball distribution, Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level. I just like the way their defense is coming on. You can see that at the end of the Ravens game, and then obviously last week. So, in Miami's, they've turned the ball over a little bit. So, I definitely think this is a favorable game for Buffalo, but that's a lot of points.
Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, Coach, let's say you're trying to defend Josh Allen in this offense. What can you do? Like a quarterback like Josh that is so dynamic, can beat you so many different ways. What are you telling your defense to do to try to contain this guy?
Well, it's twofold. I mean, they do such a good job of staying on time. When I watch them play, they're in sync. I mean, this is an offense that's played a lot of ball together, and I think that's really, things I always watch for in September football. You look at the teams that are playing well offensively. It's usually illustrated by a group of men that have some time on task together, and they look really, really sharp. But his ability to extend plays, and when you got quarterbacks that can, exit through the A gaps or exit through the B gaps, extend plays, and obviously turn them into huge gains. I mean, they're tough. That's a tough task for the defense, especially early in the year. Defenses, their timing, the rush lane discipline, all those things. Part of that September football, Miami's going to have it tonight because he's going to make plays, and then the other part of it, he can throw to any spot on the field. He can make any throw out there. So I just been so impressed with him the first 2 weeks.
Josh Allen, reigning MVP of the NFL. Every offseason, he's only gotten better. This offseason, he got married. We'd obviously like to congratulate him for that, but he's also gotten better somehow. This Buffalo Bills team, very fun to watch. And on the flip side, people are saying the Dolphins have gotten worse. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach, I remember a couple years ago in Dallas when you guys were in a little bit of a rut, you went with the Gallagher gimmick, and you started smashing watermelons in the locker room. We all heard about it. We all loved it.
That's right.
When there is this much negative surrounding a team like there is the Dolphins right now, would you encourage Coach McDaniel, hey, maybe smash a few watermelons in the locker room, get the boys going, or is it a little early to bring out something like that?
Well, in honor of the great Gallagher, he was 2-0 in my time in Dallas. So
rest in peace, by the way, great Gallagher.
Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace. But no, actually that was during the pandemic times too. So we were probably caged up a little bit, too much, just thinking about it too much probably. But no, I think that you have to have fun. You got to keep the energy up. I mean, that is so important. All part of the group dynamics and the challenges of every single year. So yeah, I think the most important part is you want these guys clear-minded. But Miami's going to have to go. It's a division game. These division games are always tight. We talked about this a little bit last week. September division games, I think, are a real challenge. So they're going to have to really do a good job taking care of the football. And as you know, Buffalo's just looks so good right now. So and Miami's going to have to shorten the game, win the time of possession. The first 2 weeks they've been on the wrong side of the time of possession. But division games are usually tight. Like I said, that's a lot of points to give up to to a division opponent.
Why is the division game normally tight thing? Because don't rosters change every year? Like, why is it always? I mean, we were a part of them with the Colts. They were always tight. And it's always like, well, you know exactly what the person's going to do. You play them so much. But what if it's a new OC, new DC? What if it's a new coach? Right? Not that it is in this particular case. But why is it is it the vibe of the game just feels bigger so people are a little tighter? Like, is it the knowledge of the other team that just naturally comes from playing each other so much?
I mean, personally, they're my favorite games of the year. I mean, they are the best games of the regular season. I mean, I know as a coaching staff, you always put time, into the division games in those June weeks before you go on vacation. They just carry so much more weight. Plus the fans, the tradition, the rivalries, all that play into it. So there's nothing like the division games. I know there's so much made of the night games and so forth, but the division games, just the competitive spirit is always high. You know each other fairly well, even like you've stated with the change of rosters. I mean, there's definitely a familiarity to your division opponent.
What's behind you there, Coach? What do we got? The photo.
Oh, Roberto Clemente.
That's it
Give
right
you a little
there.
look in your hometown, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Roberto
that.
Clemente Bridge, my favorite all-time professional athlete.
Hell yeah.
Is that your favorite bridge?
Is it my favorite bridge? Okay, that's a good question. I'd have to say the Homestead High Level Bridge.
Good pick. That's a good one.
That's
The closest one to the highest.
Yeah, of course, down there, obviously.
There's a beer distributor right at the end of it.
Pittsburgh, actually, most bridges of any city. Pittsburgh.
In the world, right? Isn't that the world record?
In the world. Bridges everywhere. I mean, it's architectural engineering marvel as you walk around town. That one right there, though, leads to a lot of good times.
Yeah, it does.
And that one's named after a phenomenal human in the history of sports. Go ahead, Tone.
Yeah, Coach, we were talking about Daniel Jones earlier this week and how great he was against the blitz, against the Broncos. And we talked about it with Bruce Arians a little bit and AQ Shipley. And they were saying, like, some of these teams, they don't have sight adjustments anymore, and they don't have hots. I was asking you, like, overall, is that what separates a good quarterback from a great quarterback, is against the blitz, knowing your sights, knowing your hots, and is that why young quarterbacks sometimes tend to struggle coming into the NFL?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point. I think schematically, when you do put together an offensive system, we always talk about proactive adjustments, and some teams don't believe in having sight adjuster or a hot system built in. It's more, make the protection adjustments. So it kind of varies scheme to scheme. But definitely that's something that, when you go back and you look at the training and training camp, because, the live work, the live teamwork, because the speed of the pressure is so important for the development of quarterback. Flipping to the other side of the ball, and I learned this from Dom Capers back in 2009 when he came to the Packers. We were talking about preseason, how much pressure to run in the preseason versus not showing your pressure and, just playing coverage and standard defense. And the point that he always made, which I still see that's true, and I obviously use it on the other side of the ball offensively, is the defensive players got to learn to play to the speed and the time clock of pressure defense. So having pressure defense for a young quarterback in the training component is critical. And I think that's probably, along with I think Bruce's comments, is a key to their development.
Can you tell me a little bit about confidence and what that can do for a quarterback, especially when you come out like Danny Dimes, new home? Obviously, a lot of shit has been said about you. And then the first 2 weeks, you're playing damn near perfect football. Your choices, your options are all right. Your throws, all on the money. Your decision-making on when to run, seemingly right. You're taking huge shots, you're bouncing right back up. It's like, that's a great way to start a new relationship in life, but definitely with a new team, right? Confidence has to be a weapon for Danny Dimes and Shane Steichen at this point?
No, absolutely. I mean, and you get the big win over there in Denver, too, is awesome. No, confidence is really what it's all about. That's what moves the needle. That's what moves the needle for the player. That's what moves the needle for the offense, the defense, and ultimately moves the needle for the team. And then the fans and everything, the external energy increases. But I'm really happy to see his success. He's had some tough moments, but I always thought he was an excellent prospect, both in the pocket and out of the pocket. And it's great to see him have the success he's having in Indianapolis.
Was it against you we saw him just running, striding out? Was that against? It feels like it was on primetime games, which is normally against him.
No, I mean, I think the one year he had, 3 touchdowns over 50 yards? I mean, he can run. No, he can definitely run. But I just think he needed a little more. time in the pocket in the earlier days because he definitely has that ability.
What is it like coaching and preparing for a team when you know you're going to be having your backup quarterback going in? And are you asking for some of your superstar players, maybe even your defense, to step up, have a big week? Or is it kind of, hey, let's keep this thing rolling. This is a train. Let's just get the backup in there and, continue to play?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's part of the rhythm of the season. I mean, the 17-game season is real, and 16-game seasons. I mean, to see quarterbacks, go through a whole season. I mean, that's the most important statistic for any starter in the NFL, let alone the quarterback position. As we all know, is the most important position. So, yeah, when you talk about the backup quarterback position, I mean, philosophically, I think it goes back to your roster development. In the old days, sometimes you like to have a different athletic profile to your quarterback to maybe have a change-up. I personally always try to prefer the skill sets to be as similar as they can because, with the training regiments and being able to train, all three quarterbacks, hopefully a fourth one, in the room is so important. And I go back to the quarterback room. You have your starter, then you have your number two and your number three. They all have responsibilities, during the offseason, during training camp, and ultimately in season. So quarterback rooms are critical. Who you have in that room, as far as coaching, the diligence that go into it, you're really preparing yourself for this situation, back when the offseason program starts, in my opinion. So it's all about the quarterback room. And I think every one of these guys that, they're going to have their opportunity come Sunday, and they'll have the support, not only the quarterback room, but the whole football team. Some of the best leaders that I've come across have been backup quarterbacks before they got their ultimate opportunity as a starter.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? Whenever we had Andrew Luck, we had Matt Hasselbeck as the backup quarterback, and he acted like a buffer almost for Andrew as he was kind of finding his way in the entirety. Obviously, you had success with Andy Dalton as your backup quarterback for Dak. Cooper Cush obviously had a good run. Cooper Rush, sorry about that. Cooper Rush had a good run with you. But having that veteran leader type person as a backup quarterback, outside looking in, some people can say, is there going to be a little conflict here on who's alpha in room? What have you experienced with maybe two top dogs in the same quarterback room?
Well, I've been so blessed throughout my career to experience it so many different times. Back in 1993, my first year, you had Joe Montana as the starter, but Dave Craig was the backup. And Dave was incredible. I mean, David played so much football and is successful right up there in Seattle and so forth. So they complemented each other, so very well. So and Joe missed games. Dave stepped right in there. Later in Kansas City, we had Rich Gannon backing up both Steve Bono and Elvis Gerback. And, and then he went on to a phenomenal, stretch over there with the Raiders. I had Matt Hasselbeck as a young guy as a backup to Brett in Green Bay. So many times, Aaron Brooks is a young guy behind Jeff Blake. Jeff goes down, he steps up. Aaron goes down, here comes Jake Delhomme. So I've just been very blessed to have so many guys that were ready to go, bought into the system of always being ready. The development of each quarterback through quarterback school, which was a different era back then. You were able to spend more time with them. So I've experienced it on a number of different opportunities, and the latest is obviously in Dallas with Cooper Rush. He actually did it for us 2 times, both in 22 and 24.
When you look at San Francisco, a lot of people have been saying, hey, especially the way Mac Jones played on Sunday against New Orleans, if he continues to do that and he looks really good, and we know that Kyle Shanahan initially, when they traded up to number 3 a couple years ago, it was because he wanted Mac Jones. And then, through discussions and whatever happens, they ended up going with Trey Lance. Is there ever a situation you can remember, or do you think Shanahan might be going through this right now, where you almost get enamored with the backup quarterback because he's playing so well, and it makes it a little bit harder to go back to whoever your starter was?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, they're really focused on winning games right now. But going back to the draft process, it's something that I learned from Ron Wolf back in 1999, and he always talked about always trusting your grade on a player, and the irony for Mac to come back around and then for Kyle and the 49ers to now get him as part of their team. I think you have to trust the draft process, because when you look at the draft process, there's so much time and energy goes into, where you put the grade you put on these young men at the time, and then they have their experience, that could be different from each opportunity, injuries, and so many things can go a different direction. So I think this is clearly a case of trusting their process, and now he's having success there, and then with that, I think it's a great situation to be in for the 49ers, because now you have two players that you feel really good about that can win and play at a high level. So hopefully Matt keeps going and keeps playing at that level. But I think this is a great spot to be in.
You said trust your draft grade. That's a Trey Lance trade that you guys bring back to Dallas. You guys really liked him, and what are you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that'd be definitely an example of it. When Trey became available, and it was definitely the conversation was we talked about the grade that initially had on him and the value that we thought it would take to get him there. So absolutely, I've seen it happen over and over and over again, where you got to at least bring the guy, you got to at least bring the player in, at least bring him in and take a look, have the conversation, and it really, you got to trust that draft process.
So you think Shanahan after that game was like, we knew it. I knew it. Mm-hmm. I knew it. After he goes against the Saints and goes, I knew. This is what I thought whenever we initially did that. And on that point, Trey Lance goes to you guys. You liked your draft grade on him. You get him to the Dallas Cowboys. Currently with the Chargers, right? How do you feel about Trey Lance whenever your time with him?
Oh, I think he's definitely on the up. He's improving. I think he's getting to the point now that he'll be ready to be a starter in this league at some time. I was very high on Trey in my time there. I just thought he was very young, very, very raw, hard worker, excellent athlete. I think he has so much more in front of him. And I think he just got to really look at these players here in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, this pandemic and the things leading into it. I mean, I had a young, one of our youngest son, senior year was the pandemic. So, I mean, I think that time clocks on development can be a little skewed as far as guys. You see it. We talked about it a lot in the line room, offensive line room, letting those guys have an extra year to develop. So I just think patience is something that we all wish we had, in the development outlook. And I think Trey is definitely someone that's turned the corner. I really enjoyed my time working with him.
I forgot there was a world stoppage of events, being around each other and everything, and crucial development years too, whenever everything kind of changes. I don't even think, until you mention it right there, Yins are genius, obviously, football. I don't think that has even crossed my mind about like football development for players because of COVID. Obviously, you think about life, people being locked in their houses and separated from everybody, and people maybe getting more deep into the internet and believing things and seeing things and yada, yada, yada. That's life effects. And then high schoolers not being around each other, so them interaction and how they feel publicly, that's a whole thing. Whenever the developmental years, obviously. I hadn't thought about football development, though, much. That is certainly a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you go through Colts, what the Colts got going on with AR at quarterback, and then you talk about Trey Lance, I assume this is at other positions. You said offensive line. That makes a lot of sense, because that's a year of that you miss out on that you certainly need in the development phase. Wow. Hey, that was pretty profound. I want to let you know that. That was pretty profound what you just said right there. No shit.
Thank you. No shit.
Go ahead.
What did you expect?
Yeah. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, why for so long, why is it always so difficult, I think, to evaluate college quarterbacks coming out of their college program and making that transition to the NFL? I know so much relies on what's around a QB to make him successful, but it seems like since the dawn of football, it's really tough, and there's a lot of different opinions on who's going to be the guy at the next level and who's not. What do you think that is? Like, is it ever going to get easier?
I think it's always going to be a challenge because of the access, because you really, the pro experience of getting access to really truly understand the guys is so important. I personally think it's better because you're seeing more quarterback driven offenses as far as them running the ball that's now transferred to the NFL, where you used to have to project, a quarterback that was, in a primary, run first, throw it second offense, and how would he, do in third downs and things like that, evaluate his drop back passing game and so forth. But I think you see so much more of the quarterbacks with the athletic ability being used in college that now is being used in the NFL. I think that part has gotten a little easier. But it's just like anything. I just know for years, and the video is so much better as light years compared. But in the old days, if you really didn't get to get right next to the quarterback and feel the ball come off his hand and be at the workout, you truly didn't know the velocity. Now you got the instrumentation that there's so much data out there. Now you're on the opposite side of the evaluation curve of having maybe too much to look through and really sort down it, because at the end of the day, these guys don't, when you look at players that make it versus ones that don't, it's not, I don't think it's their physical capabilities. I think there's so much more data and information where these scouting departments do an excellent job there. It's really the emotional development and the emotional projection of how they're going to project to the professional sport life.
How do you go about doing it? We've seen like rock, paper, scissors people do. There's a basketball shooting. They try to figure out the competition level, try to find out if they love ball. Like, what is the goal of trying to figure out if they're going to become somebody that's an asset to your locker room or a turd, for lack of better words? Is there anything you try to do in the process of scouting a player that makes you feel one way or another about what they could potentially be in a few years as humans?
Yeah, I think, from the head coach perspective, it is different. But I think it's, your scouting department. I just go back to the last one. I've been very blessed to work at two organizations who they're different in their scouting approach, but I thought both organizations did an outstanding job of clearly understanding the player, and there's ones where there's times where you may not have all the information that you would like to have, but it really comes down to the scouts and the whole process, the testing and just, once again, collecting the data and having an understanding of how it's presented and then setting that board the right way. But I thought both the Cowboys and the Packers did an excellent job in that area.
We appreciate the hell out of you, Coach, and I know you don't like to pick games. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that or do that. But if you were over the last couple of weeks with what you have said, you'd be undefeated right now picking games on Thursday night. Congratulations. Congratulations, 2 for 2. Last week you picked the Packers. Felt like that was going to happen regardless. They showed up for you. It was a big one. You didn't pick them, by the way. You said, I like green gold tonight. So we put words in your mouth and had you pick the Packers. Tonight, I think I heard you say earlier, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points for a Thursday night game. How do you see this game going for us that will be picking games here in a matter of moments?
I think Buffalo's going to win the game. That's a lot of points for a division game, but
say no more.
I'm going to go against against the grain. I'm going to go with the Bills tonight.
Oh, jeez. Okay.